Hello and welcome to Run Testers. My name's Nick and this is our full review of the New Balance FuelCell SC Elite V3. So, the SC Elite V3 is New Balance's new top-of-the-range carbon racing shoe, replacing the RC Elite V2. The SC stands for Super Comp, which is New Balance's new range of carbon plate kind of super shoes. You've got the Super Comp Pacer, which is a lower stack short-distance racing shoe, the Super Comp Trainer, which is a super high 47mm stack shoe that's designed for training, and then the Super Comp Elite V3, which is the long-distance racing shoe, but really it's just the best carbon shoe in New Balance's lineup. It's currently just out in this New York Marathon edition, which is probably not widely available anymore, but the full launch of the shoe will be in February 2023. So it costs £220 in the UK, $250 in the US, which is a little bit pricier than the RC Elite 2. It weighs pretty much exactly the same as the previous edition of the shoe though. It's 228 grams or 8 ounces, and it's got the same stack as the RC Elite 2, but the drop is now 4mm instead of 10mm, so that's quite a significant change in the shoe, the way the midsole has been shaped to create that lower drop. Other big changes to the midsole are the new energy arc system you've got here, which is the same as in the Super Comp Trainer and Pacer. You've got a big pronounced rocker on the shoe, you've got full length carbon plate running through it, huge gaping midsole cutout along the bottom of the shoe there. The idea is obviously to reduce weight, but also to try and direct your foot into the middle of the shoe when landing to create more stability and make sure you're lined up on the carbon plate correctly. Obviously you've got New Balance's FuelCell foam in the midsole, but we've got a dual density midsole here, so there's slightly firmer top layer of foam above the carbon plate and then a softer FuelCell foam beneath it. Carbon plate also sits quite high at the back of the shoe there, so all of that's designed to create a slightly firmer feeling on landing and transition you through your foot strike if you are a heel striker, whereas the New Balance RC Elite V2 was a little bit soft and squishier at the heel. You've got a mesh upper with a built-in knit stretchy tongue there, which wraps the foot in a bit of a sock style. You've got minimal cushioning at the back there and not really much support around the heel. And then the outsole, you've got rubber, in good amounts of rubber around the forefoot, and then thin strips at the heel there and a little bit on the plate just to kind of protect it if you do land very firmly on the forefoot and squash into the ground, so you might actually hit the plate.
So fit for me, I would say, was okay in my UK size 8. I would say go true to size in this shoe. I think you get a good amount of space up front in the toes to make it suitable for those kind of long distance runs. I think you get a nice hold in the midfoot as well. It's a nice light upper. My only real qualm here, and it's one that I mentioned in the first video, is that this sock-like component of the upper didn't 100% work with me, and I got a little bit of pressure from the laces on my kind of runs after that kind of initial first run as well. I think a sign of a good upper is you kind of don't notice it's there, but ultimately I did always notice it was there, even kind of the longer run that I did in this shoe as well. So if you can get that to work for you and you get that lacing combination and the kind of sock-like tongue to work for you, then great. I would say go, as I say, true to size based on my UK size 8 in this shoe.
The SC Elite V3 is true to size for me. I definitely wouldn't size up or down in this shoe, but it's worth noting that the upper is quite tight and restrictive. It does have this sort of sock design to it, so it is quite stretchy, but what I have found is the upper bit of the shoe around the ankle collar is a little bit high for me, and I do find that it presses a little bit on my feet, so just keep that in mind if you've got really wide feet.
So I've run about 60k in the SC Elite V3, been basically using it for all my fast runs of late, and I've got to say I have been coming back from kind of a bit of downtime, recovery, injury and all that, starting to feel good again on the run, so I'm going to try and make sure that I don't overpraise the shoe just because I've started to feel a bit better whilst running in it, but I do really like the shoe. I think it's been really good. I've done 2 park runs in it, I've done a 10-mile test, and so far every single run I've done in it I've really enjoyed. The ride has changed a lot from the RC Elite V2. It's interesting actually that they've got so many similar ingredients and a similar stack height, but how different it does feel underfoot. You've got that firmer feeling at the heel and a much more aggressive rocker that really tips you forward onto your toes. It's a very, very fluid transition as a heel striker. It really moves me forward onto the toes and gets me bouncing along on my way very effectively, whereas with the RC Elite 2, a shoe I really liked, but it was a lot softer and squishier at the heel. It kind of made it feel a little bit more ponderous, even though it was a very fast shoe. This feels a lot more nimble and agile, something that's, I think, accentuated by the fact you've got that wider design at the heel and then a narrower design at the forefoot, which does create more of an agile, aggressive feel to the shoe. So I've done 2 park runs in the shoe, like I say. I did one in 17:17 and then 16:43 at the weekend, and it just felt very smooth and comfortable. It didn't really feel like I was pushing hard in a very fast, flat shoe like an old school racing flat. It did still have that, carbon shoe feel where it feels like you're just cruising along and the pace is just coming very naturally and easily. But it certainly feels more nimble and agile around corners than the RC Elite V2, and actually a lot of carbon shoes. Actually, they're both quite wet, those park runs, and one was quite twisty and turny, and its outsole did grip very well. I did take the corners quite carefully. I did fall over recently, so I'm being very careful, but did feel like I was getting a lot of grip on what was, a fairly slick, wet path. So I definitely think the shoe is a better short distance racing option than the RC Elite V2, but at the same time it is still very comfortable over longer distances. I've only been up to 10 miles so far, but I've got no reason to believe that it wouldn't be very comfortable for anything longer. I just cruised through that 10 miles. It protects the legs really nicely, makes you run a bit quicker than you feel you are. I wasn't really pushing the pace very much on that run, but did feel very comfortable. It does still feel like a shoe you could use for lots of training runs, which was one of the great strengths of the RC Elite V2. It was a fantastic training shoe, as well as being a good racing shoe. I think this has still got a bit of that in it. You can use it a lot, even if it does feel a bit more geared towards all-out fast running. It's interesting about the drop being 4mm because I definitely have noticed it in the sense that my calves have been a bit more tired in this shoe after runs. Like if I've been using it 3 days in a row, I think it has put a bit more pressure on my calf muscles due to the lower drop. But at the same time, it doesn't feel like a 4mm drop shoe. Like if I run in this and then run in any 8mm, 10mm super shoe, it does have a very similar feel because the rocker is so pronounced. It certainly still feels like you're getting that tip forward and it feels a lot lower at the forefoot than it is at the heel. But yeah, at the same time, it is a lower drop shoe, so that might suit different runners differently, but I very much enjoyed running in this, and it felt fantastic to me.
So I've done over 50k in this shoe so far, and that's varied between easy runs, some quite tough track sessions, and I also did a 10k road race in it a couple of weeks ago. And I really like it. I think it's a fantastic shoe. I would go as far as to say it's my favourite race shoe that New Balance has ever produced. I liked the RC Elite V2, but for me, it just didn't have the carbon plate race shoe qualities that I look for in a race shoe. The foam was a little bit too soft for me. It felt a little bit like it was deadening the impact when I was running, and I just didn't get a lot of bounce or pop out of it. I didn't really feel like I could go a lot faster in that shoe. I enjoyed running it. I thought it was very comfortable. And for training runs and for tempo runs, I think it was very nice. I just wouldn't ever pick it up for a race. And I did do a couple of races in it, and I just didn't really enjoy it that much. It just didn't give me what I wanted, like I'd get from the Vaporfly or the Saucony Endorphin Pro 3. Now, the SC Elite V3 makes some big updates from the RC Elite V2. It feels a little bit firmer. It feels a little bit poppier. It feels a little bit more lightweight on the feet. It just feels faster for me. And I've really enjoyed all of those different sessions that I've done in this shoe. I think what New Balance has done with the SC Elite V3 is that they've got closer to shoes like the Vaporfly 2, like the Asics Metaspeed Sky Plus, and like the Saucony Endorphin Pro 3. It's a very similar shoe to those in how it delivers. And I definitely look at this as one of the top tier carbon plate race shoes out at the moment. The ride is quite soft. It's not massively soft like the RC Elite V2, so it does feel like it's propelling you forward a bit. It does feel like it's doing something to make you run a little bit faster, but it's not too soft, so it doesn't feel like it's deadening the impact as well. Over race distance, so the 10k I did in it was down at the Brighton seafront. Not my fastest time. It was quite bad weather that day, and I really struggled with it. But the shoe felt great. It did exactly what I wanted it to. It felt like it was propelling me forward. It felt like it was tipping me forward a little bit, and it really just had a lovely, consistent, bouncy feel to it that I really enjoyed for that run. This would definitely be one of the shoes that I would pick up for big races that I want to do. It's not my favourite of the carbon plate race shoes out at the moment, but it's getting pretty close, and it's in that top tier of maybe 3 or 4 shoes that I definitely say are all great options if you're looking for a fantastic race shoe. I did find that Energy Arc carbon plate in here was quite noticeable on the run in combination with that FuelCell midsole foam. It really does feel like there's a nice bit of energy return in the shoe. I also felt that it had a fairly good grip as well. I've been running in the rain quite a lot recently, and I've had no issues with the grip on this outsole. It doesn't cover the whole of the midsole foam. It's quite a modest covering of rubber, but it's enough to offer a good level of grip. Not quite sure why that bit's in the middle though. It doesn't seem to touch the ground.
So in terms of my testing, I've done a bunch of different runs in this shoe. I've done that kind of 10k run. I've done a treadmill session with them. I've done a couple of track sessions. I've done a longer run in them as well. And I would say overall, the feeling of running the shoe is that it's been pretty good. And it's been pretty solid in terms of those runs. It definitely feels like a nice shoe to run quick in. It definitely feels a little bit firmer than some other kind of performance shoes I run in, particularly against things like the Metaspeed Sky Plus and the Dolphin Pro 3, which I've spent the most time in racing and kind of training in. I'd definitely say the feeling is a little bit firmer in comparison to those shoes, but ultimately, I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing here. And I think in terms of going long distance as well, then it's kind of, you want a little bit of firmness in that midsole anyway. And in terms of what New Balance is doing in this shoe, it's characteristics of what we saw in things like the Super Comp Pacer, which actually I really liked. You've got that kind of energy arc kind of setup where you can, the midsole is kind of hollowed out to kind of promote higher energy returns. You've got that FuelCell midsole there as well. You've got that carbon fiber plate, all the kind of things you would kind of expect to see in a kind of high-end performance shoe. And I think the feeling of running a shoe is that you do get a nice feeling when you're running quick in it. You do get a nice quick transition from heel to toe, and that's kind of what I felt, particularly in those kind of track sessions. That's what you get. And I felt at times I was running deceptively kind of quick in this shoe, which I think is always a good sign. As I said, I think it's a little bit firmer than what I prefer personally, but I think if that's something that you're looking for in terms of that feeling, this feels like a shoe that kind of offers it. I think the other thing I would say is the kind of aggressiveness of the kind of rocker that you're getting here. I don't think it quite is in the same level of things like the Metaspeed Sky Plus, but I do think it's more stable than a shoe like that, so definitely more characteristics in terms of what you're getting with your Dolphin Pro 3, where you've got something that you can train in, I think, a lot, and I think you can race in as well. In terms of the outsole, it's been pretty solid for me overall. No real issues in terms of grip. I've run on kind of dry and wet roads in this shoe. I've done a wet kind of track session in them as well, and it's been absolutely fine from that point of view. I think you're going to probably get a little bit more durability, but I think there's going to be question marks over how much running are going to be able to do. But it's in terms of things, again, against things like the Metaspeed Sky Plus, where there's more of that kind of exposed foam at the back of the shoe, and I think there's elements of that in other performance shoes as well. I think it's going to hold up pretty well in terms of using it for a lot of sessions, for training and racing as well, and I think you're going to get a decent amount of mileage on it, and I'm not seeing really any real bad signs of wear so far. So yeah, overall for me it has been very solid. I would say the overriding kind of characteristics, I would say, is that it's a little bit firmer than other kind of performance shoes that I've run in, but ultimately I think it's got the characteristics and the feeling of a shoe that's nice to run quick, feels like it's one you can use for training sessions, but also you could probably race, and I would feel comfortable racing longer in this if I could get this kind of upper to work for me and be less of an issue. But I think if you were looking for a New Balance kind of fuel cell shoe that is suitable for long distance runs, then I think this is one that's going to definitely appeal based on my testing.
So my verdict on the SC Elite V3 is that it is a fantastic new shoe from New Balance. It's definitely one of the top tier shoes at the moment, and I wouldn't have classed the RC Elite V2 as one of the best carbon plate race shoes. I enjoyed that shoe. It just wasn't one of the best ones out there for me. I think this shoe sits up there with the Vaporflies, the Alpha Flies, the Saucony Dolphin Pro 3s and the Asics Metaspeed Skies. It's just a great choice, and I think that for some people, the feel of that midsole foam, that slightly firmer midsole foam in comparison to the RC Elite V2, will probably make it their top option for running, because I don't think there's a lot in it anymore. I think my personal preference would be the Saucony Dolphin Pro 3 at the moment. I really enjoy that shoe. It just feels a little bit lighter for me and a little bit more natural to run in, but this isn't far off. I think this is a fantastic option as well. And I'm definitely looking forward to trying this out over half marathon race distance, maybe even marathon.
So my verdict on the New Balance FuelCell SC Elite V3 is that if you're looking for a race shoe and a training shoe as well, all in one, that maybe feels a little bit firmer to make it a bit better suited to those kind of longer distance runs, then that is absolutely what you get here. I think it feels like a shoe that's nice to run quick in. Personally, I don't think it's going to replace the Metaspeed Sky Plus and the Dolphin Pro 3 for me in terms of racing, but I think I would have no qualms grabbing this for kind of quicker training sessions, maybe some kind of shorter stuff as well, just because that upper or kind of tongue issues that I had, I would be a little bit hesitant personally. But I think it sits very well, particularly with things like the Dolphin Pro 3, where I think it's one of the more stable performance shoes, something that it's versatile enough to use for kind of training sessions and use on your race day as well. And you know, I think you're going to get a decent amount of mileage out of it too. So yeah, for me overall, it's been a solid shoe. Not the shoe that's going to replace my kind of preferred go-to performance shoes in terms of kind of marathons, but I think if you are looking for a firmer feeling shoe for marathons, for your kind of training runs, and you still get that nice kind of peppy feeling out of it, then this is a shoe that fits that profile well.
So the SC Elite V3 is a really good shoe. It's New Balance's best carbon shoe yet, in my opinion. It's certainly the best option in their current lineup. I know that the Supercomp Pacer is pitched as the short distance racing shoe, but this is a better short distance racing shoe than the Supercomp Pacer, and I think it's a more versatile, all-round, impressive carbon shoe than the RC Elite V2. It still has a lot of the comfort of that shoe, and I think it will be a great marathon racing option, but it's a much more nimble, superior short distance racing shoe and a rep running shoe. So I think it's a really good update all round from New Balance. I've enjoyed cruising around in it, like I say, so I think it will work for some training as well, but it's really when you're going all out that you feel the benefits of it most. It's got just a very quiet, actually smooth and natural feeling ride to it, as opposed to some of the more slappy carbon shoes, like the very loud ones like the Alpha Fly. It really just feels like it's just skipping over the ground when you're running well in it, and that slightly firmer feel at the heel accentuates that, as opposed to the very deep squish you'd get on the RC Elite V2, which felt amazing, very comfortable, very bouncy, lovely marathon option, lovely cruising around option, but it didn't feel quite as aggressive and fast as I'd like for shorter events, or even actually goal marathons where I do want that slightly firmer, more racy feeling. So I think this is a great shoe. I think it puts New Balance right back at the top tier of carbon shoes, but there is so much great competition out there. For me, this is sitting alongside things like the Vaporfly and Endorphin Pro 3, which are, I think, very versatile carbon shoes. Great for 5K, great for marathon. Actually, Endorphin Pro 3 is great for training as well. And I think those two are slightly ahead of the Asics Metaspeed Sky Plus, which is similarly impressive at all distances. And I think the SC Elite V3 is right up there in that group. Personally, I'd still lean towards the Vaporfly and the Endorphin Pro 3 myself. I think the Vaporfly is probably the most impressive all-out racing shoe going for things from 5K to the marathon. Endorphin Pro 3's advantage is that it's a very comfortable training shoe as well, and I think the New Balance will sit in that category as well if you are looking for a lower drop shoe. I think putting it up against the Metaspeed Sky Plus, which is also a 4mm drop shoe, I prefer the feel of the New Balance to the Asics, but again, there's a lot of personal preferences here. I think those four are all really excellent carbon shoes and probably will all work just as well on race day. It really depends on what you're looking for in a carbon shoe. So I'd probably just lean towards the higher drop ones myself overall, but yeah, this is a fantastic shoe that I love running in and I'm looking forward to doing more races in. That's it, guys. That's our review of the New Balance SC Elite V3. Let us know what you think in the comments below. We'll get some comparison videos up over the next couple of weeks, directly comparing it to certain carbon shoes. But if you have any questions, do dive into the comments. We'll try and get back to you as soon as we can. Please do like, subscribe, ring the little bell. We'll see you next time.